in the early time when we were on North Market Street. But come on up, and I'll tell you, she's going to share a powerful story. And one of the things about recovery is there are relapses, and it's just part of it. And she's going to share a little bit about her journey. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Neil. Good evening, Matt. Great friends, great food. Who could ask for a better night? Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story. Like Neil said, my name is Charisa, and I'd like to tell you just a little bit about myself and my history with On Our Own. Believe it or not, I was in the mental health system for 10 years before I even heard the term peer support. I had been in and out of the hospital several times and was in rehabilitative housing for the second time. One day, I was spending some time in a day program when I happened to notice a flyer posted for a training called Intentional Peer Support, hosted by a place called On Our Own Frederick. I was very intrigued. What was peer support? I called that day and got a spot in the training. I had no idea what to expect, but what I received was 5 days of intensive training that included the fundamentals of peer support and plenty of role plays. I was all in. I wanted everything there was to know about peer support and running a peer-run center. It took a couple of months, but eventually I moved around the corner from the original center on North Market Street. I was in walking distance, and I was so excited. But the reality of peer support let me down. At the time, On Our Own was toxic, to say the least. I had managed to get hired in the office for a couple of hours a week, and the staff meetings, to put it mildly, were hell. No one felt heard, so raised voices and constant quitting and coming back were the regular, and the center wasn't much better. I felt like every other day the cops were being called, and all the safety and support I had seen in the training became a distant dream. I was so disappointed. So I checked out. I still believed in peer support, I just couldn't handle the daily reality of On Our Own. I came in to help out in the office, but the hours I worked tended to be outside the center's open hours, which was fine by me. Until one day. My friend in the office, Mary Buckley, led a support group for the training I had initially come to. She asked me if I wouldn't mind filling in for her as facilitator. I immediately said yes, and I ended up loving the experience. It was so positive to sit in a circle and talk about what peer support can be. And from there, I ended up starting a couple of groups of my own, an art group and a personality group, both of which actually became pretty popular. And just like that, I was back in the community. It still wasn't ideal, but what I learned was that peer support isn't perfect. It can be messy, and that's okay. I ended up facilitating the weekly member meeting in addition to the other groups. It was super stressful for a while as people constantly yelled at each other. And it took the development of all of my peer support skills to get the group to a place where everyone felt heard enough that yelling and toxicity finally calmed down. Although it was hard, it was also some of the most rewarding experience I've ever had as a peer support specialist. I learned that peer support is often forged in conflict, and that how we do or don't walk through that conflict defines us and how well we understand true peer support. In the years since then, I've worn many hats for On Our Own. I've worked in the office, often helping with conditions of the ward. I've held down the fort with other staff when we were between directors. I've been secretary on the board. I've been volunteer supervisor. I've done trainings, including RAP. Jill and I have done some amazing training together. Been a training coordinator, and I've facilitated hundreds of groups. By far my favorite thing to do. On top of that, with On Our Own support, I was able to earn my status as a certified peer recovery specialist, which I've kept current for the past 6 years. I'm also working on achieving the family endorsement certification, which will allow me to work with families with loved ones struggling with mental illness. I've never lost my love for talking about peer support, because I know if I'd never seen the big picture of what peer support can be in that first training I took, I never would have given the community a second chance. I just would have walked away. Something else I've learned through the years is that recovery is not a straight line from A to B. It goes up and down, back and forth, circles around, and hopefully keeps moving forward. My own recovery took a turn for the worse in February of 2022. Long story short, I ended up being in and out of the hospital for 3 months for mental health reasons and even suffered a pretty bad staph infection. It was one of the worst times I've ever been through in my life. And I do want to say thank you to Christy, who was there for me during that time. And I will always appreciate the kindness she showed me when I was having a rough time. When I came through the other side, my position at On Our Own was no longer available, and I decided to hoof through life on my own. To this day, I regret that. I think if I had come back to the community, my recovery would have been swifter, and my equilibrium would have been restored much faster. Well, fast forward to a few months ago, I had heard Neil was the new director. Awesome. And On Our Own had a new location. Could be awesome. A huge tug on my heart told me to come in. The very first day I walked in, the first person I saw was my years-long friend, Sharon Grill. Sharon Grill, how are you? Is she in there? Yes. Sharon Grill. I have known her all the time that I've been with On Our Own. She gave me a huge bear hug, which was exactly what I needed after having been away from the community for so long. She was like, "Where have you been? I missed you." And I was like, "I missed you too." So thank you, Sharon Grill, for being a huge support in my life too. That day I had a great conversation with Neil and immediately signed up to facilitate our 2 evening groups on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Thank you, Lorenzo. I can't tell you how excited and grateful I am to be back in the On Our Own community. I am also so proud of how healthy the environment now is. Although I've seen some conflict, but that will probably never fully go away because face it, we're human. I never have to worry anymore though about yelling or screaming, and everyone seems to be heard. I say kudos to the amazing staff and volunteers. On Our Own has had its ups and downs over the past 13 years I've known it, as have I, but we both keep coming back to the basics I learned all those years ago of shared stories, mutual respect and responsibility, and ultimately hope. I will always be proud to be a part of this amazing community. Thanks for letting me share.